I didn't make a whole lot of comments yesterday during the podcast about Sarah Huckabee, the strange daughter of the former governor of Arkansas, who is herself now the governor of Arkansas, except to say that, and this is not an ad hominem attack. I mean, Sarah Sanders is, I don't know, she impresses me as a creature out of a swamp somewhere, but every time she speaks, her mouth curls into what appears to be either a sneer or the kind of look a raving beast gets on its face just before it tears into human flesh. I mean, seriously. But I didn't make too many comments on what she said because it was all bullshit. It was all Christian crapola. It was all terrorism. And who cares anyway? But her hometown newspaper did respond. It did indeed. The writer in an editorial referred to what she said as a word salad. And the guy who wrote this for the Arkansas Times is a writer named Austin Bailey. He wrote an editorial. I assume he's one of the editors. Part of what he said is this, quote, Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene might not have liked it much, but President Joe Biden exceeded expectations with his State of the Union address. Hecklers tried but failed to knock him off his game. His signature empathy infused the hour-plus speech, and at the end, there was little doubt this 80-year-old man isn't done yet. As the celebratory after-party rolled on in the U.S. House chamber, Governor Sarah Sanders commandeered TV screens to darken the mood. Excerpts her office shared early in the day hinted that Sanders' speech would include her standard snarling about wokeness and the radical left. No surprise there, end quote. He goes on to say, this editorial writing, that among other things, Sanders claimed that a woke mob, what the hell is that, is taking over the United States. And under Biden, quote, we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols, end quote. What? Now, if this is not a clear marker for insanity, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, call it what you want. But she's saying that, well, I'm guessing here, but she's saying this mob has taken over and now the rest of us have to, quote, partake in their rituals, snarl, salute their flags, snarl, and worship their false idols, snarl. What the hell does that mean? And she even claimed that when Trump was president, she sort of felt like she was in the military when she wasn't. I mean, this is a crazy person. Now, the editorial writer for the Arkansas Times said that the speech, quote, was a word salad of talking points and name-calling with some attempts at folksy relatability thrown in that was light on policy, heavy on menace, end quote. That was the message and the impression that I got from the few minutes that I watched what this demon was going to say, was the sense of menace. And maybe it's because her face is so screwed up that she can't go through 5 or 6 seconds of facial expressions without that hideous sneer appearing, that raised lip sneer that really after a while becomes scary. I mean, scary as hell. Anyway, the writer Bailey also criticized Sanders for claiming that Democrats started the culture wars. Oh, God. When she, and I'm quoting Bailey here, this is what Mr. Bailey wrote, quote, when she launched a skirmish against transgender people unprovoked and for championing the bravery of the Little Rock Nine while hiding a school voucher program, all but guaranteed to worsen segregation in Arkansas schools along racial and socioeconomic lines, and for blaming Biden for drug crises around the country when suffering families didn't seem to bother her before. End quote. Yeah. I mean, these are the frothing, rambling, spittle-flecking garbage from someone who is obviously out of her mind. And she's the governor of Arkansas. If you live in Arkansas listening to this podcast, hey, much luck. You folks are going to need it. How long are your governorships there? 4 years? Oh, my God. Now, what Sanders had to say was pretty much panned across the entire country. A couple of examples. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, who was a Republican member of Congress and very conservative back in the 90s. Try to remember that. But Scarborough called it dystopian. And another Republican, as a matter of fact, a Republican organizer, speechwriter, activist, and co-founder of the Lincoln Project, Steve Schmidt, he accused her of abusing America. Whoa! Not just abusing one or two people or the state of Arkansas or America. Yeah, I've commented before on the 180 that so many Republicans have had to force themselves into. Michael Steele used to be the head of the Republican National Committee. Former, what was Michael? Lieutenant Governor, I think, of Maryland. Prominent voice in Republican politics. Michael Steele. What's her name? Nicole Wallace on MSNBC, who has become my second favorite commentator on that channel after, after Rachel Maddow. Who else? I mean, just innumerable Republicans who have had to abandon all this Republican conservative bullshit because it has become so clear that the Republican Party is dead. Fascism is rising in this country, at least to the extent that it is represented by these swine, these scum. And a lot of people say, well, come on, it's only, 30-40% of conservatives are that way. Are you kidding me? How much control did Adolf Hitler have, for example, before he was named Chancellor of the German Republic? How much before he rose to power? How much do any of these insane dictator types, how much basic power do they have before all of a sudden the population of the country realizes, oh my God, how did this happen? Where did this come from? So I don't think there's any way that we can be unaware of what is happening here. And it is happening. The next 2 years, the lead up to the 2024 election, presidential election, and all of Congress and a third of the Senate, what happens in this country over the next less than 2 years will truly determine the ultimate outcome of this experiment in democracy. It will. I believe that. I hope that the majority of us are aware of that. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.